Today, I'm going to be taking a look at Genesis chapter 3. God is a liar, or as Christians refer to it, the fall. What is up, you sinners and saints, you beautiful, blasphemous people? Welcome back to The Rage. I'm your boy Nakasuchi. This is The Raging Atheist. And today, we're going to look at Genesis chapter 3 and see if it's stupid. First, I gotta send that shout out to my patrons. You guys are the shit. You're keeping my head above the water. You're helping that it helps. And I want to thank you. And if you'd like to become a patron, see every video I put on YouTube for just $1 a month, or get extra benefits, we have plenty of time now. I'm really gonna fix Patreon. Tried to do it before, failed. Gonna try to do it again. If you'd like to become a patron, link is in the description below. Alright, so we're going to be looking at one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, Genesis chapter 3, known as the Fall. I like to call it God is a Liar. Genesis chapter 3 verse 1 says, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, 'Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?' The woman said to the serpent, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die." 4. "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Alright, so let's look at that first verse, right? So a serpent comes and starts talking to Eve. Now, most Christians will tell you that this is a snake. Alright, what will become a snake after God punishes it or whatever. But it doesn't say snake, it says serpent. And this could be referring to a mythological creature, a dragon. And later in Revelations, Satan will supposedly take that form again. And mythologically, dragons could talk. And some of those mythological dragons were known as serpents or serpentine. So whether it was a snake or a dragon, I don't think really matters. I think that the story here is telling you that it was probably a dragon that was talking to Eve, and because the dragon supposedly manipulated Eve, then it was punished and turned into a snake. Its legs were taken off. Doesn't say its wings were taken off, but not all mythological dragons had wings. So, that's verse 1. Fantasy, fiction, ridiculous bullshit. How can anybody believe this shit in the modern age? I can understand it thousands of years ago, but how can you believe this shit in the modern age? I don't know. Let's look at verse 2. Alright, so verse 2 sets up the demonizing for women for the rest of human history, right? Because the serpent doesn't approach Adam, the serpent approaches Eve, which would say that Eve is weaker and easier to manipulate. And women would be blamed for this for up until now, honestly. I mean, I laugh about it, but it's not funny. The serpent is asking her a question in this verse, and we are reminded that God did indeed lie to Adam and Eve and told them if they touched that tree, if they ate of that tree, that they would surely die. And we spoke of this in my last video. Their apologetics for this is that God meant spiritual death. God doesn't know how to use his words. He's like a 3-year-old. But God said die. He didn't say spiritual death. God told Adam and Eve, if they touch that fruit, if they touch that tree, if they eat that fruit, that they would die. And in verses 4 and 5 here, the serpent, Lucifer, as Christians would tell you, it doesn't never refer to this serpent as Satan, but Christians would tell you that it's Lucifer. Lucifer responds with the truth of what the tree will do, that it will open their eyes, that it will make them like God. So, I really think that the Bible is clearly telling you here that we humans have become like God was, and God was nothing more than we are. Except for maybe God was immortal. Maybe. I don't think that there's any evidence of that. I know Christians have built up this narrative about what God is, but you have to actually read the verse. You have to read it and take it what it's telling you, which is a bunch of fantastical, fictional bullshit. Genesis chapter 3 verse 6 continues, "When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves." So I would really like for you to observe what that just said. It just said that she gave some to Adam. There was no manipulation there. Adam was a willing participant that gave his consent, that didn't even have to give his consent because there was no argument. So the best case scenario that Christians could have, that this is actually Eve's fault, even though the serpent, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, had been honest with them, told them the truth of what would happen, and God had lied. Even if you want to place the blame onto Eve, you would literally have to argue that she gave the fruit to Adam without Adam knowing what it was. And there's no evidence in this passage of that. There's no evidence that she gave it to him without telling him, and there's no evidence that there was some, struggle by Adam not to eat it. And they realized that they were naked. That's the first thing that they realized. Their shame came upon them. And they realized that they were naked. Now, their husband and wife, it shouldn't really be shameful for them to be naked around each other. But somehow this is the first thought that they got. So they made clothes. Let's move on. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" 10. He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." Again, let's break down what I read there. That first part, God is a real biological dude walking through this garden, feeling the air on his face. This Christian mythos that God is this disembodied mind, And another thing from that first part, that verse 9, is that God doesn't know where Adam is. Omniscient much? And when God can't find Adam, Adam has to tell him, "Yo, I'm hidden because I'm naked and I'm ashamed." And God gets really pissy. And like this angry parent's like, "Did you do what I told you not to do?" And Adam's like, "But she told me to do it." So essentially, Adam, being the punk-ass little bitch that he is, can't take responsibility for his own actions with his parents and throws his wife under the bus because, Dad's really fucking mad here and I don't want to take the brunt of it. Genesis chapter 3 verse 13 continues, "Then the Lord God said to the woman, 'What is this you have done?' The woman said, 'The serpent deceived me and I ate.' So the Lord God said to the serpent, 'Because you have done this,'" and I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop right there before God starts talking to a snake or a dragon, whatever it is, and just point out the fact that God doesn't know what the fuck happened. He doesn't. He takes Adam's word for it, points his finger at Eve, who then in turn throws the snake under the bus for telling him the truth. So God starts talking to the snake and he says, "Cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head and you will strike his heel." So, because God lied to the two simpletons, and the snake, the dragon, Satan came and told them the truth, well, God is so mad about that he's going to curse that snake, dragon, Lucifer forever. And instead of being dragons now, we have little snakes crawling around, and we take our shovels and we chop off their heads and they bite us and we get sick. Sometimes we die. Like people believe that this happened. People believe this happened. I can't make it up. Genesis chapter 3, verse 16 says, "To the woman he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." So God, in his omnipotency, God, in his omniscience, couldn't see that Eve would betray him, and now has to change the course of history and make a painless procedure, as it should have been clearly based upon the Bible, into one of the most painful things a human being can experience. I mean, I've literally read studies to where childbirth is the second most painful thing you can experience as a human being. The first most painful thing you can experience as a human being is to be burned alive. And because God, in his omniscience, in his omnibenevolence, in his omnipotency, this perfect God that can make no mistakes but couldn't somehow see what would happen a few days after he told him whatever, this God then curses a woman to be subject to her man. And you follow such a petty thing. So fragile. Such a snowflake. Genesis chapter 3 continues with verse 17. "To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. A dust you are, and to dust you will return." So, because God created Eve and gave man this woman, and couldn't foresee that the man might listen to the woman if the woman somehow listened to the truth being told to her, because of that, he is then going to curse the man to an eternity of hard labor and work. It's not going to be just easy as plucking fruit from a tree anymore. You're going to have to grow that shit. And I'm a meat eater, but, reading this verse, I'm wondering, why Christians eat meat at all, because it doesn't say anything about eating meat in this curse. It says eating plants. So by this, what I would read from it is that you're cursed as Christians or believers in Yahweh to have to eat plants. And if you're eating meat as a follower of this blood war god, whatever it is, then we'll call it the petty god. How about that? We'll call it the petty god. So if you're a follower of this petty god, well then you should only be eating plants. And the chapter's going to close out. Adam named his wife Eve because she would become the mother of all the living. The Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. And the Lord God said, "The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever." So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. So at the end of the chapter, we clearly get the reason why God did not want Adam and Eve to eat from that tree. Because the moment it did so, it made Adam and Eve just like that biological God that was walking through the garden and enjoying the breath of air on his face. It made them like him. So the only difference is they have not yet eaten of the tree of life, the tree that would make them immortal. So God didn't banish them because they had broken his covenant. God banished them so they wouldn't be as powerful as he was with immortality. So basically, God was scared of Adam and Eve. And you see it clearly at the end of the chapter. I'm going to admit my ignorance. I don't know what cherubim is. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But I know what a flaming sword swinging back and forth is. That's magic. And that's fiction. And that's clearly God saying that if Adam and Eve were to get to that tree of life now, if they were to become immortal now, well then Adam and Eve would be a threat to God. And well, there you go. So, while Genesis chapter 3 does make for some interesting reading, I think when it comes to reality, we can definitely judge that it's really fucking stupid. Real quick here at the end, this was supposed to be a collaboration with my co-host, Ali. She is diagnosed with COVID-19. She is going through it. I believe she's getting better. Hopefully she's better today like she was yesterday. But because of that, we didn't get to do this collaboration. So I'm actually hoping that we'll either do the collaboration and revisit this chapter, or maybe Ali can do her own chapter 3 is stupid and tell you from a woman's perspective how she takes this chapter. As always, I'm your boy Nakasuchi. This is the Raging Atheist on the Rage. If you like our videos, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share us on your social media, comment in the comment section below. Hit that bell so you're notified every single time we make a new video or every time we have a new live stream. And as always, I'm gonna see you soon.